Orchids are absolutely romantic. They are the most romantic flower on earth.
The shape of the flower seemed to have a fascination for human beings that, in some ways it is certainly as passionate as sexual fascination.
Orchids are kind of an argument for the existence of God in that they are so beautiful, but they are also an argument for the existence of sin because they tend to tempt people into doing things that they probably shouldn't do.
CITES is an international treaty that now has 172 member countries. It's been in effect since 1975, and orchids have been included in the lists of species protected by CITES since the very beginning.
I cannot think of any orchid species that has benefited by being placed on CITES.
The intention is to prevent trade from being something that endangers or causes the extinction of a species. So that's the intent with orchids as well, is not to keep them away from people, but to make sure that the access is controlled in a way that they aren't overexploited.
It's making them go extinct. Because I mean, it's prohibited to bring them in from certain countries, and a lot of these countries could care less. They're not into preserving the species.
I remember in Zimbabwe, it's permissible to cut down a tree to burn for charcoal, but if there is an orchid on the branch, it is illegal to take the orchid off the branch and grow it, but you can still burn the orchid while it's on the branch to make charcoal.
From what I've been told and read, they use some of the Paphiopedilums in Thailand during times of drought and things like that as fodder for their pigs. So, go figure. And these things are endangered, and you can't cross the border with them or do anything like that. I don't know. It's quite frustrating.
Some orchids are considered common enough that they can be traded commercially, but trade needs to be controlled so they don't become endangered by the trade. And then there are actual endangered species of orchids, for example, some of the slipper orchids.
The Asian slipper orchids used to be collected, and you could import them legally, and the collectors were relatively careful not to over-collect the populations because they knew they could go back there every few years and harvest more. When they were made illegal, there was a period of about 6 months before the laws came into effect. During those times, the collectors went out and collected every damn plant they could find because they knew this was the last time they could do it legally.
Unfortunately, a lot of these things are prohibited, period, and nobody could have them. You could go to jail, which is, it's sad. It's sad to see that, especially for an orchid. I mean, you get treated like a drug dealer almost, in some cases worse.
Greenhouses have been raided by people and plants taken and confiscated.
The plants are confiscated, and then we have what we call rescue centers where confiscated plants are placed.
Not all plants end up in rescue centers. Some may be destroyed.
I think CITES has done much more damage to orchids and stuff like that. It's caused more the illegal smuggling of them.
There are always people smuggling things, and sometimes people get caught, and some very big people have been caught in the past doing this.
There is a black market. I don't get involved in that. Like there's people who pay high bucks to, big bucks from what I've heard, that smuggle them in and illegally trade them. So that's just things I've heard though. So